Celebrity Charts. Today we're going to do Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes. We know that relationship's not working out. We want to kind of take a look at why. It's not really a very good relationship to begin with. She's a Sag, he's a Cancer, that's fire and water. Really, he's very much into public fame. He's got a lot of Leo in his chart, and she's really into children and her creative impulse. So the way they're even coming at their acting careers is totally different. Sag is also about higher truth, and they love religion and philosophy, but not fanaticism, and he's got a kind of fanatical chart. Plus, his Neptune is square her Venus, and that kind of means that it's somewhere along the way she got disillusioned about what she had gotten into. His Pluto is actually also on her Virgo, and that means, ooh, what does that mean? It means he's oppressive, heavy, dangerous, brooding. She doesn't like that. She has confidence and perfectionism issues, and he's all too happy actually to be right there with the criticisms, and they both together have enough Leo in their chart to have an applause factory built into every room of their house. That's their attraction, fame, and even larger fame. But it kind of turns out to be competitive between them. This is a classic power struggle, and it is not going to be pretty. Tom is going to feel very lonely and very angry. Katie's going to be even more disillusioned and immersed in her own family of origin drama. The heavy hand of guilt and responsibility is going to come down hard on her from every angle.